I try not to, but I really don't try not to. But you know, from when I was younger, I used to use it like really off the hook, just really inform me. But now, I'll probably say it here and there or whatever, but I still use it though.
Black people use it, but that's okay. I think that it's a word that is not only racialized, but it's very classed as well. But my main opinion about it is that it's a word that probably shouldn't be in our language and probably should be out, but that all the drama around it is not having really to do with the word. It has to do with the people that are using the word and the uncomfortability that people have with the black men, pretty much the young black men that are using this word. I don't know if the word can be reclaimed without the historical significance that the word meant. But I do think that there could be a conversation about the word that would be realistic about all the different dynamics and white privilege and oppression and racism and classism and all of that that's a part of the word, and that's a part of the reason why society has such a problem with the word. I mean, it's not a word that came from a good place, you know. I don't think that it should be something that we use, but there's lots of words in our language that did not come from good places. And if we're gonna get really mad about this one word, then let's get rid of, you know, half of our English language, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't think it's about the word. I think it's about the culture that word has to do with, and people's uncomfortability with black urban hip-hop culture, and the way that seems to be scary and violent for people, particularly white people. But yeah, and it's also about a generational difference, you know. It's about the fact that, you know, there were a whole bunch of black people that fought for us not to ever have to deal with that word, and then there's a whole bunch of young black people that are saying, you know, this doesn't matter what word we use, we're still gonna be niggers, you know. It doesn't, with the R, even though they take it off.
I think that for some folks, reclaiming language is important to them, and it's a way to take back. It's a way to talk about their experience in their language and their way of knowing. And I think that a lot of folks use it very unconsciously and don't know the history, and they're not reclaiming anything. They're just saying it because that's what they hear around them. And so I think that there needs to be an education around why is this problematic for many people? What is the history of it, and why should we not? Why would we not say it? As well as, what does it mean for folks to reclaim something that was negative and to take it back and turn it around? And for some people, you can't do that with the word nigga. There's no way to do that. And so I think both are true.
I have no problem saying nigga.
For the longest, I did do the, oh, white people can't say that. Black people need to have something for their self.
I think it's an evolving word. It's one that has been evolving, not so much from history as much as through generations. And people use it, and people tend to hear it in different perspectives and within context. I say the word, I hear the word, and sometimes it's positive as well as negative, and it gives me some negative and positive thoughts around the word.
Initially I was nervous. I mean, I want to be able to talk about the N-word, and I want to be able to have open dialogue, and at the same time my visceral or my emotional response is like to be nervous, and I felt my heart pounding, and I thought, what am I going to say, and am I going to say the right thing, and what if I say something wrong or bad, and what will that mean about me and how other people view me. And but it was both sort of an intellectual response and also very visceral and kind of an emotional response.
You're afraid you might say the word.
No, no.
I'm just kidding. Will you tell me that story of your friend in the office, and he asked you?
Sure. A few weeks ago, I was working with a colleague and friend of mine who is African American, and he and I were working in the office one day, and we were listening to Lupe Fiasco's new album as we were working, and both of us really like the album and have listened to it a lot and know a lot of the lyrics. And as we were talking, he turned to me and he said, you know, when the N-word comes up in some of these songs, he's like, do do you say the N-word in the car while you're by yourself and when you think no one's listening? And I said, well, I don't personally. And he said, well, you know, my assumption is that all white people do because they want to say the word, but they don't want to say it. They don't want to say the N-word. They'll only say it by themselves when they're on their own.
White people want permission to say it.
White people cannot say it.
They've always wanted permission to say it.
I know that I, as a white person, don't have any authority or any right to use that word.
If they don't say it, they think it.
I think of it primarily being used as a weapon and being used by white folks to degrade and defame black folks in this country.
Folks want permission to denigrate. They want permission to say, yes, this is what you are. This is what my father said you were. This is what my mother said, my grandmother, and my grandfather. So now, are you now giving me permission to do that? And the answer to that is no. You don't get permission to do that. And regardless of what we look at in terms of how people are navigating that within the culture itself, you know, it doesn't make a difference. You don't get to do that.
I mean, I've given it, I try to give it up. I've given it up like on a conscious level, like when I'm speaking with people, I try and make an effort to let them know, you know, like that's not cool, or, you know, I don't know how many nigga friends you got, but I'm not one, you know, like to let them know, like I'm not feeling that. But, you know, you got your old friends and sometimes it slips, or sometimes you just gotta let people discover that on their own, you know?
I walk through the world very differently than my 15-year-old, my 16-year-old, my 17-year-old youth that I'm working with, even within my community and outside of my community. It's very different for them. And so, yeah, sure, folks use it as an endearment. It doesn't feel like that for me. And I think if we're going to measure it, you know, in its totality, I think we can rid ourselves of it and be okay. I think we can, but I'm certainly not going to assault someone who's in the process of trying to figure out why that's not okay to use in the first place. They don't know enough about who they are. We're looking at young men who don't have a clear understanding of where they came from or the shoulders they stand on. And if they knew, they wouldn't use the word the way they do. But in the absence of that knowledge or that understanding, you know, they're going to navigate life as they see, and it's right in front of them, and that's all they know. And that's shame on us that that's all they know.